Father in heaven, we thank you for those words that we've been able to sing. And even that verse that we don't often sing. And we do praise you that you will be our shield and portion throughout this life. Father, we thank you that you will be with us, to lead us and to guide us and to provide for us, to protect us. Father, we ask that now as we turn to your word, that you would minister to us. Father, help us to hear what you have to say to us today. Father, would you please open the scriptures to us so that we can hear them, so that we can gain wisdom from this book designed to give wisdom, that we would know how to better live in this world as a creature of the Creator, as one who you have made and love and care for. Father, please be with us and help us, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. I wonder if you've ever heard people say, why do bad things happen to good people? Or to say, why does some young die? Or why does she seem to have the worst luck? Do you know anybody? I can think of one person in particular who just seems to have the worst luck in life. If there's any illness, any sickness, then they're going to catch it. If it's possible to lose your job, then they'll lose their job further. It just seems to, everything seems to go against them. We often look at the world and just see, this seems unfair. Can they not catch a break? The fact that we ask these questions regularly, I saw a couple of you mouth the question, why do bad things happen to good people? People say that a lot because we see it happen. And people say it a lot because they recognize two different things about living in this world. The first thing that we recognize is that life is full of suffering and pain. That life under the sun is full of suffering and pain. And secondly, we think, as human beings, we think that there should be a pattern to suffering and pain. That there should be some kind of order to it or justice to it. But so often there isn't. So often it's random. So often it feels wrong. And I think tonight's passage, this first part of Ecclesiastes 9, is seeking to answer this question of how should we live? How should I live? How should you live in the light of the pain and suffering of this world? So that's where we're going in the end. But first of all, we need to see all the negativity of this passage. And when you're in the book of Ecclesiastes and you're saying all the negativity of this passage, you know that it's going to be very negative. One of the commentators I read this week said that this is the absolute lowest that Ecclesiastes goes. It's the most negative. And yet within it there is a glimpse of light, a glimmer of light, a shining light, which we'll come to. But first of all, look at verse 1 with me. Suffering seems random. Verse 1 says, so I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands. But no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. As he begins this section, we get this sense that he is moving towards a conclusion. We're coming towards the end of Ecclesiastes. He's starting to try and bring things together, and so he begins, he says, so as I reflected on all this, it's in everything that he said in chapters 1 to 8. As he reflects on all this, he comes to a conclusion. He pulls the threads together, and he concludes that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands, but no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. This means two things. It means, first of all, that they are in God's hands. That those human beings, the wise and the righteous, are in God's hands, that they're in his control. That there is a certain amount of order and care and provision for people. But then he goes on to say, but from where we're standing, from where we are, it seems totally random. He says, from where we are, No one knows whether love or hate awaits us. No one knows whether good or bad awaits us. No one knows what the next thing down the track is. In January, people were making New Year's resolutions, planning holidays, and thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And nobody knew that coronavirus was going to come and shut everything down. We don't know what's ahead. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, never mind in 6 months or a year. No one knows whether love or hate awaits them. But there are things that human beings use to try and bring control. We don't have control. As we look at the world and we look at life, it's random and it's out of control. But there are things that we seek to use to try and get control. To say, if I do this, then this will happen. We're going to see, first of all, in verses 2 and 3, that they're not controlled. The suffering, this random suffering of life is not controlled by being good. And then secondly, we're going to look at verse 11 and 12 and see that they're not controlled by our ability. First of all, let's read verse 2 together. It says, all share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. It says there's so many opposites in this passage, whether you're righteous or wicked, good or bad, clean or unclean, whether you offer sacrifices or whether you don't, whether you're good or whether you're sinful, whether you make oaths or whether you're afraid to make oaths. It doesn't matter, he's saying. All of these things are unable to control the random suffering of life. The teacher says all share a common destiny. All will suffer, all will struggle, all will experience pain. The teacher here is attacking a particular thinking within Jewish thought. This particular thinking that if you're good, then you'll get good back. If you do the right thing, then you'll get the right thing back. Almost like life is a machine where you put in input A and you'll get output B. Like this is a machine which always does the same thing. If you're nice, then you'll get niceness. If you're good, you'll get good things. If you offer sacrifices, then you'll get good. And the writer of Ecclesiastes is saying, no, that's not how life works. You can't control your life in that way. You can't bargain and structure your life that if you put these certain things in, you'll be guaranteed a life without suffering. It doesn't work like that. In fact, quite the opposite, he says. All share a common destiny. No matter how good you are, the randomness of this world will catch up on you. We all alike share the same destiny. Verse 3 goes on to say, this is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. And he attributes it to the evil in every human heart. He says the heart is deceitful and wicked and untamable, and it's this madness in the human heart which is the source of the problem, the root of the problem. This week we were looking at Christianity Explored. At Christianity Explored this week we were looking at the problem of sin. And he had this lovely wee phrase, Rico Tice, the guy that does the videos, had this lovely wee phrase where he said, the heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. The heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. And there's just this truth, this fact that people live with a madness in their heart. An illogical strain that is everyone's problem throughout life. We always have this madness in our heart, this selfishness, this sin. We will have it throughout our life and then we will die. Effectively, we live in a world of sin and sinners. That's the world that we live in, that we inhabit. And so because we live in a world of sin and sinners, where our hearts are full of sin and your hearts are full of sin, we will experience suffering. We will live in a world that is broken. Suffering will be common to all people. Not only is our suffering not controlled by being good, also we're told that our suffering cannot be controlled by our ability. Our experience of this life can't be controlled by what we're good at. Verse 11 and 12, we're doing this in a funny order so that we finish on a high. It'd be awful to finish on a low, wouldn't it? Verse 11 and 12 teaches us that we can't control the sufferings of life by ability. This time he's speaking about how we expect life to run, by human logic. He says, I've seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favour to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. In that wee poem, he's trying to say that by human logic, we expect the fastest to win the race. By human logic, we expect the strongest to win the battle. We expect food to be on the table of the wise. We expect wealth to come to the brilliant. We expect favour to come to the learned. That's how we expect life to work. And nine times out of 10, that might be the case. 9 times out of 10, the fastest runner does win the race. But it's not always the case, is it? That wee poem finishes with the words, but time and chance happen to them all. I was reading in the news just today. I don't often make a habit of reading the horse racing news, but that was a big headline on BBC News website. And it said about a race in the Cheltenham Festival. I think it was an important race. And there was the favourite horse was a horse called Goshen. And this horse apparently was like favourite to win, shortest odds. It was almost definitely going to win. And then as it started the race, it gained loads and loads of ground on all the other horses. It was miles out in front. And you're going to be able to guess what happened? At the last hurdle, the last fence or hedge or whatever, as they jumped over, the rider fell off, the horse went away, and someone else won the race. And there's a picture on the BBC News website of the jockey with his head in his lying on all fours on the ground with his head in his hands. And he's apologising to everybody, saying, I'm really sorry, I failed. I had the fastest horse and I didn't win the race. We expect the fastest to win, but it doesn't always happen. Time and chance happen to them all. I read of Daniel Radcliffe today as well. I was looking for illustrations. Daniel Radcliffe's the guy who was Harry Potter in the Harry Potter films. And he said that people often think that he was lucky because he got to play Harry Potter. He didn't have any particular acting ability. He just looked like Harry Potter, and so he got the job. And he said, and I suppose in lots of ways I was lucky. But then he said something interesting. He said, I know I was lucky to get that role, but no matter how talented you are, you need luck. So you're never going to make it in the film industry unless you have a break, unless you have some luck. Actually, in that situation, favour doesn't come to the learned or wealth to the brilliant. It just comes to the one who is lucky, the one who chance happens upon. It just happened that when J.K. Rowling was writing Harry Potter, she made Harry Potter look like Daniel Radcliffe, and so he got the role. Nothing in life is a foregone conclusion. Time and chance happen to all. Life can't be controlled by being good, and life can't be controlled by ability. It just doesn't work like that. In the end, says the teacher, misfortune will come. It will come suddenly upon us. Verse 12 goes on to say, no one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so people are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. He said, you can go through life, and all of a sudden you can be swimming along happily like a fish, and all of a sudden a cruel net will drop upon you. Or like a bird flapping about and setting your foot down and a snare catches you. That can happen in life. All of a sudden, misfortune comes upon you. And it's not because you're stupid. It's not because you've been foolish. It's not because you've been wicked. It's just because of chance in this fallen world. That's what the teacher is seeing as he looks at this world, as he looks at life. He says, yes, we're in the hands of God, but there is a randomness as well. A misfortune which doesn't seem to follow logic, to follow the rules. He's kind of saying, whether you're good or bad, whether you're talented or not, we're all destined for suffering and then to join the dead. Verse 3. brings us to verses 4 to 6. And I promise we're getting nearer to the good news. Verses 4 to 6, death will be our end, but life is better. He says it, verse 4, anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better than a dead lion. Quite an image, isn't it? Even a live dog is better than a dead lion. Very simply, even with all of this random suffering, the teachers want him to say, but it's good to be alive. It's better to be alive. Even with all of these things, it's good to be alive. Better to be alive than dead. At that time, a dog would have been, now we quite like dogs, don't we, as a society? Or most of us do anyway. But at that time, dogs were vermin. They were the lowest of the low. Nobody liked them. They just carried disease. They scavenged. They were just a pest. They were the lowest animal around. And a lion, on the contrary, was the grandest animal. It was the most revered animal, the most honoured animal, the animal thought to have the most power, the most beautiful. He says it's better to be a live dog than a dead lion. He says it's better to be alive than dead. Verse 5 and 6 goes on to explain why. It says, for the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and are not known. If we read it, 5 and 6, for the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. He says the dead know nothing, and they are not known. They're gone. To know this seems very morbid in lots of ways, doesn't it? It's true, though, isn't it? And if we understand that life is better than death, there is actually liberty to be found in it. I think in this life, human beings often seek to build little kingdoms, to build things which they hope will last. They want to build a name for themselves that will endure. They want to have something which lasts forever. In some ways, I think it's because of the fall. We still want to be like God. We want to be eternal. We want to be powerful. We want to be treated with respect and honour and have a legacy. But the teacher is right. He says all will be forgotten. Whether the people are building the Tower of Babel, or whether they're establishing the empire of Assyria, or whether they're setting up multinational companies like Apple or Microsoft, all of these things will come to an end and fade away and be forgotten. How many of the emperors of Assyria can you name? How many of the guys... I wasn't sure if you were going to show one out. How many of the men and women who built the Tower of Babel do they remember? None. They wanted to make a name for themselves, but they've been forgotten. And in 500 years, I'd be surprised if anybody knows the name Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. These empires are built up, but they pass, and people forget them. And so if we know that is true, then we'll stop living for that. We'll stop seeking that, stop trying to make a name for ourselves or build an empire, and we'll be freed to live life for God. So in the face of all this, as we know that death is coming, and that we will all come to nothing, at least in an earthly sense, then what do we do? In the face of all this, what should we do? How do we live? I suppose the answer to the question is, we live. We live life. As we see the fact that we're going to die, we live life. Have you ever noticed that those who know that they're going to die live well? Has anyone noticed that? Somebody who's been told that they've got 2 years to live, they won't waste a minute. As soon as they know that they're going to die, they want to do all the things that they always wanted to do. They want to spend time with their loved ones. They want to value every moment. They want to savor every day. And as we know that death awaits us, as we know that an end will come, then the teacher is wanting to encourage us to live life now. wanting us to get our priorities sorted and to live wisely, to enjoy the life that we've been given. Which brings us to our final point in verses 7 to 10. This teaching point, the thing that I think he's trying to drive at. He's saying, take joy in the little things. When I first put in a title for this last point, I made it make the most of life. And there's an element of that that's true, but when you say make the most of life, we always have big, grand ideas, don't we? Make the most of life would mean go on the fanciest holidays or to do this big, dramatic thing. But that's not the teaching of Ecclesiastes. The teaching of Ecclesiastes is to take joy in the little things, in the mundane things, the normal things. At the start of this section, we're told to go. This is an active thing that we're to do. Go. It just won't happen to us. We have to actively do it. And as we go, we're to enjoy God's good gifts. Verse 7, go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. He says God has approved good things for you, so enjoy them. He says there can be something, I think there can be something in Scottish Christianity where we feel that we have to be miserable all the time. Does anybody else feel a bit like that? Don't laugh, we're meant to be Christians. There's something about that, isn't there? Where we almost feel like it's godly to be sad and to be hard done by and to live frugally and tightly. And I think there's something you're right, Robert. There's something ungodly in that, isn't there? Because the Bible teaches us that God has given us good gifts. He's given us good food to eat. Why does food taste of something? It's because of God's grace to us. And when we eat good food, we should enjoy it and give thanks for it. Drink your wine with a joyful heart. Enjoy the things that God has given you with joy. God has approved good things for you, so enjoy them and honour Him in them. Sorry, just lost my place there, but imagine that someone made you a meal. Made you a delicious meal, and you sat down to eat it. I thought someone would laugh at me. And you sat down to eat it, and you took a mouthful of it, and you went, thanks for all the work that you did today. It's really good of you. It'd be rubbish, wouldn't it? That's not the response that the person who's made the meal wants. My dad was always the best at the dinner table. It didn't matter what my mum put down in front of him. He'd eat it. He'd go, this is the best meal I've ever eaten. It's delicious. Thank you. So what did you put in it? And she's like, same as I put it 2 weeks ago when I made mince and dotties. But he just loved the food that she made, and he was exuding joy as he ate it. And he never said to her, thank you so much for the work that you put in today. But the thanks was known because he enjoyed what she'd made. He loved it. And I think often we say to God, thank you very much for, we fail to enjoy the good gifts that He's given, and in that we insult Him. God's given us good gifts to enjoy to His glory. He wants us to enjoy the world that He's given us. I read a book last year called Enjoying God, and in it there was just one wee thing that stuck in my head. He said, why did God make the leaves all different? He said He could have made them all identical. He could have made them look like paper cups, just hanging on the trees, just all one identical to the other, just poof, 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 poof. No matter what the tree was, just one type of leaf. We didn't do that. Leaves are beautiful. They're all shaped in different ways, whether it's a beech or a birch or an oak. They're all shaped in different ways. And not only that, every single year they change colour into reds and oranges and browns, and they're just beautiful. You didn't have to do that. It's just God giving us this beautiful world to live in, and it's right that we enjoy it, that we savour it, and that we praise Him for it. He wants us to enjoy this world that He's given us. So that's the first thing that we have to do. The second is that we have to live joyfully. It says there, always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil. Always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil. In Israel at the time, white was a joyful colour. It was the colour that you would wear when feasting, when partying. Black was for mourning and white was for joy and feasting. He's saying, I want you to wear white all the time. I want you to enjoy life. He says, I want you to anoint your head with oil. Oil was kept you cool in the heat. I imagine it still would if you smothered olive oil in your head, but it would keep you cool in the heat, and it would help your skin to be smooth and nice. It was a luxury item, and he says, spread it on your head. Always have oil on your head. Enjoy this life. Live joyfully. Live exuberantly. Celebrate. That's how you're to live your life. And then thirdly, he says, enjoy people. He says, enjoy life with your wife, whom you love. It's nice that it ends up rhyming in English, isn't it? But enjoy life with your wife. And I think he is specifically talking about a married couple just having joy in one another. He says, if you're living with the one that you love living with the one that you love. So don't get lost doing different things and forgetting to spend time with each other and enjoying one another. That's a waste. Enjoy life with your wife whom you love. But I think it's not just about loving life with your wife. I think it's enjoying people, all of the relationships that God's given you. He's saying there's good things that God's given you, and people are one of the best things that He's given you. Friendships, family members, enjoy life with them. It's easy in our society to be consumed by things and stuff that take us away from people, isn't it? Whether it's work or TV or Facebook or tasks, we can get so busy that we don't have time for people. So don't do that. It doesn't achieve anything. Enjoy life with the people that God has given you. Enjoy life with the people you love. Make time to enjoy them. So we're to enjoy God's good gifts. We're to live joyfully. We're to enjoy people. And we're to do that all the days of this meaningless life. He says, because that's your lot in life, and in all your toilsome labour under the sun. It sounds quite negative, doesn't it, to say, in all your meaningless life. But he's unhelpfully maybe down to earth, isn't it? He says, life is just going to pass you by and then you'll be forgotten. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with each moment of each day? How are you going to live it? He says there's nothing better for you to do than to enjoy God's good gifts, to live joyfully and enjoy the people that you love. He says in the toilsome labour that you will have under the sun, enjoy these things that God has given. And he finishes that wee section with a final exhortation. Verse 10. He says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the realm of the dead where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. In other words, he's saying, live now because you'll die. It's better to be a live dog than a dead lion. In the moment you're alive, better than a live dog, you're a live human, created in the image of God. Live life. Live it to the full. In some ways, we might read this and think, this seems a wee bit fatalistic. As we read the words that in the place where you're going, you'll neither work nor plan nor have knowledge or wisdom. That's not true. And it just highlights the fact that the teacher is looking at this under the sun. He's not thinking of anything outside of it. It's just what he observes in this world. He says, what I see is that people are gone. He says, so live life now before God. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. Seize the day. Do what you can. But finally, I want us just to touch on what the teacher doesn't touch on. To touch on the meaning underneath what he's saying, the truth that he is finding about life. Because as we enjoy life here on earth, as we enjoy the mundane things, food and drink and people, we're told that as we enjoy those things, we will glorify God in them. If we enjoy God's good gifts, we recognize that he's the giver. It guards us from idolatry, which says that thing is going to give me joy. And it helps us to see that God gives us joy as we enjoy the things that He's given us. It stops us from seeking fulfillment in these things. And then God is glorified as we enjoy the things that He's given us. But not only are we glorifying God when we live like this, but actually we're looking forward to the kingdom that's to come. As we enjoy the good things of life, we're whetting our appetite for our future home. In Isaiah 25, as we read, we're told that a day is coming when death will be swallowed up in victory. I think I love it particularly because in that time, the god of death was called Baal, and he was pictured as a big mouth who came and swallowed up people into death. And now we're told that God comes along and he swallows up the big mouth that swallows people up in death. It just works in my head. But God will come and swallow up death in victory. And we're told that on that day there will be a feast, a banquet. The Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meats and the finest of wines. And the image of this feast carries all the way through the Bible. The great banquet that Jesus speaks of in Luke 14. And then the marriage supper of the Lamb that we see in Revelation 19. This is what we're heading towards, a feast. And all the good things that we enjoy in this life are a foretaste of the glory that's to come. I think C.S. Lewis, as so often, captured this really well in Narnia, as he speaks about them entering Aslan's country. It says this. It says, it was the unicorn who summed up what everyone was feeling. He stamped his right forehoof on the ground and neighed, and then cried, I have come home at last. This is my real country. I belong here. This is the land I have been looking for all my life, though I never knew it till now. The reason, this is the bit, the reason why we love the old Narnia so much is that it sometimes looked a little like this. And there's something in when we enjoy the good gifts that God has given us, that it whets our appetite for the kingdom to come. As we enjoy these things and as we realize, there's something that truly human about enjoying this. Something that I just feel, this is what I was made for. This is what I love. This is good and God-given. It actually speaks of a kingdom that's to come, a feast that we're welcomed to. Something which we will enjoy for all eternity in a day when there will be no more mourning or crying or pain, because the old order of things will have passed away. So as we finish, we're left with this command almost from the writer of Ecclesiastes. Enjoy life. Enjoy what God has given. Enjoy it for today, that you can glorify Him in it. And enjoy it in the knowledge that it is a tiny foretaste, a tiny and imperfect foretaste of the glory that's to come. In that day when all of the evil and suffering and pain and death will have passed away, and everything will be better than the best that you've ever known. And it's upon that hope that we set our hearts, and it's upon that hope that we live each day. Let's pray together. Father in heaven, we give you thanks for who you are and for what you've done. Father, we thank you that you are our Creator. You have made us, and that you give good gifts to your people. Father, we ask that you would help us to see your kindness in life more. Help us to enjoy our food. Help us to enjoy a walk in fresh air. Help us to enjoy the sunrise. Help us to enjoy the cheep of a bird, the movement of a cloud. Whatever it is, Father, help us to see the beautiful things that you've given to us and to give you glory. Father, help us to live this life with joy, exuberantly enjoying the fact that we are alive. And Father, please help us to enjoy life with those who we love. Those relationships that you have given us, help us to prize them. to enjoy spending time with others, and to give you thanks for what you've given us. And we ask in all of that, Father, that you would not make us content with this world, but that you would lift our eyes to that kingdom that's yet to come, that great new creation upon which we place our hope. We ask that you would increase our longing for that day every day. We ask you all of this through the precious name of our Lord Jesus.